As Canada navigates a rapidly changing global economy, a growing debate is emerging over how best to support innovation without compromising the regulatory frameworks that protect Canadians. From technology and healthcare to clean energy and finance, businesses across the country are calling for a more flexible, forward thinking approach, one that fosters growth and competitiveness while still upholding the public good. So, where does Canada go from here? We're now joined by Brendan Caldwell, Director of Caldwell Securities Limited, to unpack this. Brendan, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Theresa. This should be a good one.
So, to start us off, how does Canada's current regulatory environment hinder or help entrepreneurial growth? And what immediate changes are needed to foster a more business friendly atmosphere?
Well, I'm talking my position a bit, Theresa, which means that I'm in the business largely of public companies. And I do see the ability to create and build public companies as being a key solution. A lot of the challenges Canada has is that the measures that need to be implemented are largely in the hands of provincial governments. Securities and the raising of capital in public markets is a something under provincial jurisdiction. So is healthcare and so many other areas. And each province seems to want to have its own solution rather than a true national solution. But I think first things first, if you want to grow the Canadian economy and hire more people and develop more relevant businesses and opportunities, there has to be access to capital. There has to be relatively easier ways to raise money in the public markets. Ultimately, governments are not the most efficient way of delivering any service. 2 clips ago, I think you had the current leader of the New Democratic Party talking about how government's going to do this and government's going to do that, and they were going to keep corporations from ripping off consumers. I think that was a quote. As though businesses and real people are at war with each other or anathema to each other. In fact, businesses are made up of real people. They serve real people. They do business with real people, and they provide in a responsive way the products and services that real people need. The challenge Canada has is to be able to raise the capital to make those businesses effective and enable them to grow is much more difficult than our neighbors to the south. So if they could figure out a way to deregulate one area, it would be in the raising and issuance and of public capital and making it easier for entrepreneurs to get their businesses to critical mass.
Now, Canadians pride themselves on our thriving social entrepreneurship. How can the Canadian government balance its social policies with the need to create an environment that attracts talent and encourages innovation in the private sector with these current shifting global relations?
Canada prides itself in social entrepreneurship. Um, I think there are parts of Canada that pride itself in being socially minded. I think Canada in general prides itself in being, if we define ourselves against America as our raison d'etre in one way or one predominant way, it would be having more of a social safety net. And I don't think you'll find even the most conservative mainstream opinion leader saying no, we shouldn't help the poor, we shouldn't help the disadvantaged. But the question is whether government needs to be the answer to every single question, whether government is actually the best way of delivering it. Again, a clip you had on a moment or two ago was talking about how Jasmeet Singh would have a doctor for every Canadian by 2030, I believe he said. Um, and at the same time, he said he's going to get rid of private healthcare in Canada. Well, given that 40, 50, 60 years of public healthcare have really stretched the ability of the public system to deliver a doctor for every human being, which if you're going to have a socialist system, should be the minimum. Given that hasn't happened, I think there needs to be different thinking, and some of it probably is private healthcare, because that's a blended system that allows for borrowing your phrase, social entrepreneurship, probably will end up with a better result because it gives a greater degree of flexibility, and probably a lot less waste. So I think allowing the private sector to be involved in the solution, it's government's job to see things that are done well. They're not necessarily the government's job to do everything, because it's generally challenging for governments because of all the way that it's run, the bureaucracy, the size, and the lack of incentives. It's generally difficult for governments to run very effectively.
And do you think Canada can have long term self sustainability?
Oh, heavens, yes. Absolutely. I mean, there's still a reason with all our kvetching nationally about, it's not like it was in the old days, and it's so much more difficult now, both of which are true. It's still way better here than every other country on the face of the earth, which is why in the hundreds of thousands, millions, if we'd let them, people are coming to Canada, even with all of our challenges. So yes, I do think we need to get off our own backs and allow ourselves to have the opportunity to do what we're really good at. And, whether it's minerals or energy or financial services or technology, we have a lot of very promising industries that, um, if they had access to capital and a degree of reduced red tape and a greater degree of interprovincial cooperation, these are not enormous tasks to ask. But if we could get off our own backs, I think we do have the capacity to go from strength to strength.
And how can the average Canadian help enact change and support a pro business mindset and culture?
Well, I think it does help to understand business. So I would say to everyone that it, well, I don't understand money, or the money things. I know. I mean, I have a job because most people would rather have dental surgery than think about money. Um, most of us are half remembered arguments that our parents had about money. It's one of the great sources of social and marital stress. But I think it would behoove every Canadian to learn more about investing, to think about deploying their capital in public and private markets to the extent that they can. Because if we put capital to work, stock markets are the most democratic institution the world has ever come up with. They allow people to vote with their money. If you have a good idea as an entrepreneur and you have money as an investor, even if it's only $500 a month, you can invest in some of the best ideas your country has and help it to prosper, and you along with it. So I would think education and thinking about public and private markets as a way of investing in your and Canada's future.
Brendan, thank you so much for the time today.